Greetings, friends and foes. Chris here. I'm making a video tonight to announce that I'm officially jumping off the Trump train. I no longer trust Donald Trump. Uh, I voted for him in 2016 and 2020. I didn't have much option when he was running against Hillary, but I didn't trust him. That had a lot to do with him promoting his son Jared, his son-in-law Jared Kushner, as a great peace broker for the Middle East. If you can't make peace, nobody can. You know, I didn't like the sound of that. It sounded very anti-Messiah. It really did. It didn't sound good. Anyhow, within a few months of Trump's presidency, I started to notice changes taking place. The child traffickers running scared. Trump honoring national sovereignty for all nations, not just ours. Getting us out of the Paris Climate Accord. Stop funding the United Nations. The things he was doing that really sounded good. And when I saw the footage of the Bush funeral, the George Herbert Walker Bush funeral, I saw the Clintons, Obamas, and Bushes all served with what I believe were indictments when they opened their itinerary or whatever it was. They just, you could see fear just consume them, and they just lost color in their face. Very real looking service of indictments. And I think if that was true, that we've never seen the real Bushes, Clintons, and Obamas since. I think they've been replaced with deep fakes and actors. I could be wrong, but that's my best guess. And I saw these indictment count growing. I mean, federal grand jury indictments growing from just a few thousand, and that's when I started paying attention. I thought, oh, that's great. They're going to arrest a bunch of bad people. And then it grew to 10,000 and 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. I mean, then I started really getting excited that this guy's the real deal. He's going to take out the deep state. That indictment counts at 500,000 right now. Anyway, if they're ever executed, that remains to be seen. But anyway, and I also got information, I don't know how credible it was, off the internet, that his son Kushner, who had disappeared from the scene, his son-in-law, was actually executed for crimes against humanity. I don't know what that might involve, but that's what the buzz on the internet was, and he disappeared. I don't know if Jared Kushner was executed or not. The internet's telling me he's running Affinity Partners now, and that's a private equity firm in Israel and the United States, and they're expanding worldwide. I don't know which is true. Anyway, if he's involved in the Pedo Satan Club, I hope he's been indicted and tried in Gitmo, but I don't know what the deal is there. But it sounded to me like Trump was heralding him as the Antichrist to go to the Middle East and broker a peace deal, and it kind of made me very uncomfortable. But when I heard he was executed, I thought, oh, this is making sense. The indictments against the deep state's growing. Kushner's out of the picture. That sounds good. The Bush funeral indictments were very convincing. So I got on the Trump train at that time. And I was very cautiously optimistic. And it did give me a certain amount of hope. And when you're a targeted individual, you're pretty desperate for hope. And it gave me some confidence that this may be driven to expose and eradicate child trafficking and eradicate gang stalking. And then you've seen that abortion get overturned. It's really looking promising. And all the while I was saying to myself, this sounds too good to be true. You know what I mean? All these good things I was hearing, all these pedophiles getting arrested, end of gang stalking, end of child trafficking, med beds that will heal you, just about any disease that were being suppressed from us, free Tesla energy that was being suppressed from us, ending wars. It all sounded very good. But I was saying to myself and to others, as good as it sounds, how do we know it's not the first half of the tribulation? It was supposed to be all peachy to the average person. And I'm sorry, but the evangelicals are pretty duped. Anyhow, I still hope that Donald Trump and the White House were running a legit operation to take out the deep state. And I do believe they were, and I do believe they are, but what are they replacing it with? What are they replacing it? Something very similar that doesn't seem as evil? Because the scriptures say that the deception would be so great that it could deceive even the very elect if that were possible. Anyhow, I was presented with a lot of evidence from a lot of friends and a lot of online sources that he was a bad guy. And I never saw anything, as hard as they tried and as deep as they dug and as much as they tried to frame him. I never saw anything that would convict him in a court of law of being anything but legit. He was exposed in the mainstream media's corruption. He was exposed in the corruption and the swamp and abroad. And he was telling the truth. He was telling the truth about wars and what's causing the wars and trying to keep peace. I like the sound of it. But people kept warning me, and I kept saying I'm not blindly devoted, but I'm watching. When he shows any irrefutable evidence that he would be involved in an evil scheme, I will speak out. So I'm speaking out because he has. I remember denouncing him for the vaccines, for saying, go get your vaccines. And he later said, that wasn't me, that's fake news, that's deep fakes. And as a result, I got back on the Trump train. You know, I believe the deep state would do something like that. I know they do that to targeted individuals. They make fakes against them and try to make them look like bad people so they can get everyone in society to shun you or hate on you. And I've always believed Trump was a targeted individual. Anyway, I sincerely hope my present denouncement that I'm making now today is reversed by Trump denying this video as a deep fake. I hope he does. Because the video he made, it's in front of a very small crowd, if any. You don't see the crowd. It could be a deep fake. I'm hoping it is a deep fake. I really am. Anyhow, I'm going to play a little bit of that. I'm going to play a little bit of that video right now for you.
Hamas terrorist invasion. And when you think about, and what do you think of Hamas? What do you think? Do you know about Hamas? The terror invasion of Israeli territory and the murder of Israeli soldiers and citizens is an act of savagery that must be and will be crushed and avenged, has to be crushed. Israel's at war and the United States has to support Israel. We have to support Israel. There's been no better president for Israel than me. And nobody loves Israel more than the evangelical Christians, I will tell you that. This war happened for two reasons. The United States giving Iran $6 billion. How about that deal? We get 5 terrorists, they get 5 terrorists, or we get 5
Okay, I think that's about
they
enough.
get 5.
Sorry about my shoddy splicing there, but that's the best way I had to do it at the moment. Anyhow, you heard what he said. He's inciting, he's beating a war drum against Iran and against Hamas, whom I fully believe that Mossad created, the Israeli intelligence agency created Mossad for operations like this. And this was an obvious inside job. Israeli defense forces stood down and allowed this to happen to their people as a pretext for war, as a pretext to bomb and torture, basically, the Palestinians. You got 2,400,000 people living in a fenced-in cage. They're basically in a prison. And and they got the highest suicide rate in the world. That's how oppressed they are there. And I'm sure it has to do with psychotronic weapons too. They're in a nice isolated area. Now they're shooting fish in a barrel as a result of this false flag or this inside job. I believe that the IDF stood down. They purposely let this happen, and I believe these people were mercenaries, or it's Hamas, who was created by Israel, or created by Mossad, their intelligence agency, just like Al Qaeda was created by the CIA, and Bin Laden used to be a CIA operative. I mean, this is all show, folks. Anyway, that's why when I heard Trump for the first time, and I've been paying close attention, it's the first time I've ever heard him lying. And he was lying. It was an inside job, and he knows it was lying. He was always telling the truth to prevent war in the past. Now he's telling a lie to promote war. So he just flipped on us, and that sucks for us. And if you're one of those evangelicals who thinks Israel can do no wrong. They're fake Israel. It's not the real Israel. It's not the scriptural Israel. You got duped into believing that. And they have no right to murder and bomb innocent people, especially when they false flag attack themselves to create the scenario where it makes it look justified. It's awful. It's awful. It's just imagine if you were a Palestinian living in that caged-in smart city, if you will. They've just got you. They're shooting fish in a barrel. They can use psychotronic weapons on them. They can't go anywhere. Highest suicide rate in the world. Shame on Israel for doing this to them. And I think most Israelis would say shame on Israel for doing this. We shouldn't hate on the Israeli citizens. This is a deep state operation. This is Israel being used by a tool, by a bunch of devil-worshipping satanic pedophiles. Anyhow, Trump's banging the war drum for the first time. And not only is he banging the war drum, he's banging the war drum on a false flag, which he has to know is a false flag. The first time I saw 5 minutes of mainstream media coverage, I knew it was a false flag. And he's got a lot more insight and a lot more info than I do. He knows it's a false flag. And it sounded so fake the way he was trying to draw the evangelicals into getting, nobody loves Israel more than the evangelicals, because he needs the evangelicals. The Catholics, he didn't address the Catholics. You know why? Because the Catholics already obey with blind obedience to their hierarchy without comparing it to the scriptures. We're going to compare it to the scriptures. So you listened as he tried to lead evangelicals into that war mindset that got us into Iraq and got us into Afghanistan and cost us an illegal war, another illegal war. He's pulling a George Bush on us. They need you to believe that Rothschild's Israel is Abba Father's people for their agenda. Rothschild's Israel is not Abba Father's agenda. It's not his people. They're pushing an agenda. And they're clearly not who you think they are. If you think that they are God's chosen people and they can do no wrong and they're justified in bombing whoever they want to bomb, you're misled. It's actually very much the opposite. They're not doing the peace and love that Christ required of us. They're doing bombing and terror. And why do they need you to believe this so much? Why does the deep state need you to believe that this Israel is Abba Father's legitimate Israel? Why do they need you to believe that? They need you to believe that to excuse this entitlement, warmongering mentality that they're pushing. This is a deep state asset. Israel is a deep state asset. When you really peel back all the layers, you've got Jesuits and Pharisaical fake Jews conspiring to commit evil. Doesn't that harken back to conspiring of Rome and Pharisaical Jews to crucify Messiah? It's like there's nothing new under the sun. The ultimate goal, what is the ultimate goal here? What's the end game? It seems their end game is to enthrone a world leader on the throne of David in the temple of Jerusalem. And he'll rule the world with an iron scepter. And of course, everybody in the world would need to be Luciferian or die under such a regime. And according to Scripture, the first half of the tribulation is going to seem wonderful. No wars, no nukes. You hear him talking about we're going to get rid of nukes for the whole world. And we're going to have med beds that make people 30 years younger. We're going to have universal income for everybody. Make it sound real good. You know what I mean? It sounds just like the first half of the tribulation. Their interpretation, they're pushing their interpretation of prophecy with great fervor. I mean, they really push prophecy. I don't see any Christians, I don't see any other faith push prophecy, try to push prophecy like they do. It's amazing. But I think that true believers who are enlightened by the Holy Spirit, they have a different prophecy than the devil-worshipping, blood-drinking baby rapers. That's very different. Anyhow, the Vatican funded Hitler. They funded his Holocaust to pave the way for this new Israel. It's all scripted. We're on a stage here. So now we have a secular Israel. It's a counterfeit. It's the opposite of Yahuwah's Yisrael. It's the opposite. It's the exact opposite as counterfeit. And those professing Messiah are denied citizenship in Israel. My brother got a genealogy done. It's just we're 35% European Jew, whatever that means. I don't really put too much stock in that kind of thing. But using a ticket like that, you could say, hey, I'd like Israeli citizenship. But you would be denied Israeli citizenship if you profess Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus, as your Messiah. You would be denied citizenship. Does that sound like Abba Father's Israel? Doesn't sound like that to me. That you have to deny his son to get citizenship? No, that's the opposite. These are not God, Yahuwah's Jews. They're not. The Jew is one inwardly. If you were descendants of Abraham, Yeshua said, if you were descendants of Abraham, you would have believed him. You would have believed me. So they don't believe him. Tel Aviv, Israel, is about one of the gayest, if not the gayest city in the world. Most of the people there are atheists. And Judaism is a lifestyle of just keeping the feasts and denying Yeshua. That's the only thing they really have. Should we hate on them? No, we should love them and pray for them. I certainly don't have any animosity towards them. But a person's Jew status doesn't have anything to do with their bloodline. It has, in the eyes of Yahweh, in the eyes of the world, it does. But in the eyes of Abba Father, it has nothing to do with their bloodline. There are people in the bloodline want to, a remnant. There are. And his covenant is with the house of Israel and the tribe of Judah. But many branches were cut off that others could be grafted in. Throughout biblical history, he kept trying to bring them back out of their anti-God agenda and their Baal worship and their child sacrifice and the things they were doing that were wrong. He kept trying to bring them out of it. And finally, he just made a new covenant. Well, I'm going to cut off branches and I'm going to let it, and on New Jerusalem as well. He's bringing a New Jerusalem. We have a new covenant and a New Jerusalem. That land of Israel is not a holy land, and the people who occupy it cannot do whatever they want under the guise of being God's chosen ones. It's just not true. They're not God's chosen ones. Regardless of your bloodline, it doesn't matter how much Jewish bloodline you have. That's not what the scriptures are talking about at all. It makes it very clear. If you were descendants of Abraham, you're being cut off. I mean, the kingdom is not somewhere where you can say it's here or there. Yeshua said the kingdom of heaven is within you. And he didn't, and if my kingdom were of this world, we would fight for it. But my kingdom is not of this world. This is not a legitimate Israel. You need to get that through your brain, evangelical Christians, no matter what President Trump says or tries to deceive you into believing. The whole purpose of this push is to establish a Messiah who sits on the throne of David in Jerusalem. Their goal is to establish an anti-Messiah and expand their kingdom all the way from Egypt to Iraq, its original boundaries, or its boundaries in its former grandeur, and have an antichrist ruling the world from the seat of David, or from the throne of David in a temple in Jerusalem. That's the satanic prophecy they're trying to fulfill. Now, people filled with Holy Spirit know that is a false Messiah, and that is a false Israel. His purpose, Yahweh's purpose, is to establish the true Messiah in the throne of our heart. And his kingdom is not of this world. That's a fake Israel, people. His covenant is new. His Jerusalem is new. Rothschild's Israel is a tool of Satanists, of Luciferian pedophiles. Their flag is even got the Star of David. It's a very occult symbol, and it has nothing to do with David. It has everything to do with the Star of Remphan. This is a political and military machine bent on evil, and it's controlled by the deep state. Very dark. It's a union of Jesuits and Pharisaical Jews. It looks just like the forces that crucified Yeshua, and they only answer to Satan himself. They're the top dogs, the Jesuits. They're the top tier in that pyramid before you get to the eye of Lucifer on the top. It's a fake Israel. It's a fake Jews, and they're going to present a false Messiah. That's what's coming. Yahweh has a true Israel for us, a new Jerusalem, real Jews who are one inwardly, like the scripture says, the real Jews one inwardly, and a true Messiah, Yeshua HaMashiach. That's what I have to say. Stop beating the war drums. Understand what's going on here. And I hope Trump comes out and says, that's a deep fake. That wasn't me. I hope that happens and I can get back on the Trump train. But if that doesn't happen, and Trump's the John the Baptist of Satanism, and he's heralding in, my worst case scenario, I'm thinking, God, is Trump the John the Baptist for the heralding of the Antichrist? And that might be Jared Kushner, his son-in-law. It made me wonder that. Anyhow, I don't have the answers. I'm not a prophet. I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to. And stay away from anybody who pretends to have it all figured out. You know, the people who walked with Yeshua every day didn't have it figured out. He had to unfold the scriptures when he came back to life and walked with them along the way, and he opened the scriptures to them. They didn't have it figured out, and they knew him so well. They had a chance to have intimate conversations with him every day for months. And you would think they would have known better, but they didn't. So stay away from anybody who's got it all figured out. There's only one worthy to open the seals and understand it all and have all the understanding. There's only one worthy to open those seals and have all that understanding. And that's the Lamb of Yah. That's the Son of Yah. That's Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ. That's the only one. So stay away from people who got it all figured out and they know everything. I don't know how this whole thing's going to unfold. I can't promise you I do. But I know based on what I do know, that it looks very concerning when you have Donald Trump coming out and saying, oh, us evangelicals are always sticking beside Israel. Israel's demonic. I'm sorry, it is. It's a counterfeit. It's a satanic counterfeit of true Zionism. It's exactly what it is. And they pulled a false flag on themselves as a pretext to bomb the crap out of fish in a barrel. I mean, it's just, how can you get behind that? How can anybody get behind that? I've said what I have to say. God bless you. Pray about it. I'm not asking you to believe everything I say, but consider it and pray about it and study it up. Anyway, I'm going to include a link in my description that's very important video to see. It'll unfold this and it'll have the scriptures. It has it all laid out there for you, really clear. And it was able to just share everything I have in my heart, my mind. It took the words right out of my mouth. It was just a fantastic, enlightening video, and I've got it in my description for you. And I want you to give it a look if you don't mind. Peace be with you. Shalom. God bless.